The following is a presentation of the Mat Talk Podcast Network.
The mind of Pat Popolizio is a wondrous thing. And for you Pac wrestling fans, you'll get to go inside the mind of the Skip each and every episode here on the Pac Mentality Pop-Ins podcast. Now, here's your host, NC State Director of Athletics Digital Communications, Brian Reinhardt.
NC State Wrestling is finally coming back home to Reynolds Coliseum this weekend. We are going to get to all of the exciting home action and talk about the first couple weeks of the 18-19 season in this brand new episode of the Pac Mentality Pop-Ins podcast. I'm your host, NC State Director of Athletics Digital Communications, Brian Reinhardt, and riding the ship through the waves of the collegiate season is the head coach of the Wolfpack, Pat Popolizio.
Brian, good to have you back.
Pat, it's great to be back. You said it was cold outside up in New York. I said it was cold here, so we've already argued a little bit. But
yeah, you're getting a little soft with the weather. You know. You got to hit some of these road trips with us. You got to get ready for Pittsburgh.
Wrestling is a good indoor sport. But that Open might have been a Rock ripoff from his WWE days. But Pat, did you know defensive line coach Kevin Patrick over from Wolfpack Football was a college roommate with The Rock, Dwayne Johnson?
I read that. I think somewhere on his when he first came here on his release, there was a picture of them two together. So maybe you can work some angles there.
Well, I was going to say, Coach Patrick, he's always bragging. He has The Rock's number and he texts him, and I want him to come to a duel, but The Rock is not committed yet. So, Rock, when you hear this podcast, let's get you to an NC State duel this year.
You got it.
But this is going to be a great episode of the podcast. I've already got one WWE reference in, and I need to remind the listeners, our last episode, we had WWE Hall of Famer Sergeant Slaughter join us to talk about his career and how he follows the Wolfpack now. So if you missed that episode, please go back into our archives, and that's in order, as the Sarge would say. But, Pat, our main event, let's talk some NC State wrestling. You were up at Albany, had a little adversity in the airport, I heard, this past weekend. How was the first flight of the season?
Well, it went well. I traveled up actually a day earlier. So I was piggyback some visits off that. So I didn't actually travel up with the team. So the adversity is good. I think that's what it's about.
Maybe that's why they had adversity. You weren't there to steer the ship.
Well, anytime you get in these road trips, you want to encounter all those little things and see how guys balance that focus and stay the course. And sometimes that's good, and as the season goes on, it won't be the last time we hit some of that.
This is going to be a packed weekend here in Raleigh. On Saturday, you guys will host the annual Wolfpack Duels starting at 2 p.m. in Reynolds Coliseum. And I would be a bit remiss if I did not mention to go ahead and purchase those season tickets now at gopack.com/buy tickets. We've already set a new record for most single season tickets sold for a season, but we want to continue to add to that. And the Wolfpack Duels will feature matchups against Davidson, Reinhardt, and UNC Pembroke. Two mats going on at the same time. You tend to get a lot of guys action in these opening and home duels. How excited are you to get back into Reynolds Coliseum?
Always good to be at home, get these guys ready to go. And the goal this weekend is to get as many matches as we can for our roster. That's the experience is very valuable. So the more matches we can get in, jam them in for this weekend, that's the goal. And we'll shake up our lineup a little bit and get everybody a match or two, and then roll right into the open tournament. And everybody will probably get anywhere between 3, 4, 5. I think the most we can get in is 6. So depending on where you're at in the bracket and how you're doing, that'll dictate how many matches you get. But we're getting good numbers right now, and definitely have probably 25 guys in a weight. So everybody will see some quality competition this weekend.
You must have looked at my notes because I'm about to talk about the Open, so you kind of ruined it.
Oh, sorry.
Very quick turnaround to Sunday. Annual Wolfpack Wrestling Club Open over in Carmichael. Usually 10 mats of action. I got the year entrance list for NC State. A lot of returning guys and a lot of guys that are redshirting. So, Pat, the Wolfpack Wrestling Club Open's a long day, but your guys get in a lot of good matches against a lot of the local teams. So fans should come on out and they can see a lot of NC State wrestling going on Sunday.
Yeah, you'll get a good mixture of our roster between Saturday and Sunday. all our starters will be at least one of the events, and you'll get to see these guys compete. Obviously, Hayden and Shawn won't be here because they're on the road traveling, but everybody else will be weighing in and wrestling one of those days. So we're looking forward to seeing everybody compete.
I got a joke because you got to format this because my next thing is about Hayden and Shawn here, but
I'm keeping you honest today.
Stealing my thunder.
I'll start leading this podcast.
A couple members from your squad that will miss all the home action this weekend, but have a great opportunity in front of them. Redshirt senior Shawn Foss, redshirt sophomore Hayden Haile, along with assistant coach Adam Hall. They're all going to trek halfway around the world and head to Romania for the U23 World Championships. They'll be competing in freestyle compared to folk style in college, but how will this trip with USA Wrestling help both Shawn and Hayden for the upcoming season when they are back in an NC State singlet?
It's big for them. Originally, when you go back to the recruiting process with both those two, they want to wrestle internationally. Their goal is to win world Olympic titles. Shawn was on a world team when he was a cadet. This is Hayden's first team, but he's competed all the way through trying to make teams. So, that's it. You got the opportunity. You got to take advantage of it, and that's what these guys are doing. They've been training really well with our RTC guys, and they look very good. And it's going to be fun for those guys to get that experience, go out there, compete, and see what they got. That's what these guys train for, is to be in these situations to compete against the best guys in the world. And I'm looking forward to seeing how these guys do.
I think that segues us perfectly into talking about the upcoming Wolfpack wrestling season. We talked a lot last season about Shawn and being a little choosy about what stools he weighs in for and wrestles. What's the plan for Shawn this year? We're here in week 3. He's ranked in the top 10 of every major poll, but you still have some decisions to make of when his availability is.
Yeah, we'll take our time with him. We know what he's capable of doing, and when the timing's right, you'll see him competing at 125 pounds. We have a good plan in place, and he's still got some time right now to continue to train and get better and focus on a couple things. And, school, obviously, with his major, it's very demanding. I think people forget we're not just here to wrestle, but his major requires a lot of extra work being in the engineering field. So it's a good balance between academics and competing, because there is a lot of work on his part with extra training. So we have to be strategic with it, and every guy is in a different plan on our team. All 10 starters have a different plan. Even our red shirts are in a different plan. But when it matters, we'll put the 10 best guys out there to make our best team, and we just got to be patient and trust the process. That's what it comes down to.
When Shawn is not in the lineup, what will 125 pounds look like for the Wolfpack?
Got a lot of options, and that's what I like about where we're at right now as a program. Zerk Storm looked very good this past weekend. Jacob Camacho's redshirting, and he looks very good. We got to continue to develop. Tommy Cox and Charlie Lennox also had a solid weekend as well. So we got a lot of guys in that room right now that can scrap, and that's what's making us better, is we have competition within. And when we need to call on one of these guys to step up and compete, they'll be ready. And right now, Zerk Storm's going to be the guy competing for us at 125. And when Shawn gets back down there and ready to go, we'll have 2 really good guys at that weight. And again, the competition's bringing out the best in all of us.
Up at 133 pounds, redshirt sophomore Tarik Wilson. Last year, he was coming off redshirt and not ranked. All he did, he went out, placed 3rd at his first trip to the NCAAs, and he's in the top 5 in every poll. But different start of the season for Tarik. Maybe an underdog last year, but everybody's well aware of him this season. He has that target on his back. How is he mentally going into this season?
What makes him good is he doesn't get caught up in any of the nonsense with the rankings or what people think, and he shouldn't, because it doesn't matter. It's not going to stop any one of our guys from accomplishing their goals, because if we look at that and we dig deep into those rankings, then we will not accomplish our goal as a program this year, and I don't think one single guy will accomplish their goals as far as winning a national title. So we erase those. We put the blinders on. We wake up every day. We focus on what will make us better, and that's what we need to do, and that's what Tarik does a phenomenal job at. And at the end of the day, the only thing that's going to matter is what he believes in, and he believes he can win a national title this year. So regardless of what people put him at, it means absolutely nothing. And he continues to get better. He's improved from last year. So if he finished 3rd last year and he's better than that, then let's put it out there and put him to test. But we got to go through the season. We got to continue to get better, and we got to find out where we need to work. And we're going to see plenty of good guys this year, and that's what it's about. Get tested every week, different competition, and we'll come back to the drawing board and see what we got to work on.
141, you're replacing what felt like 8-year starter Kevin Jack. How's Kevin doing on the redshirt circuit?
Kevin is doing phenomenal. I think he's a 74-pounder now, but Kevin's doing well. He's been working hard, grad assistant. Learning a lot and bringing a lot of insight. Anytime you get a guy that was competing for you and is still connected to the current team, that bridges a lot of the stuff that we need to know from coaches to athletes, that connects those dots for us very well, so we can continue to manage and get inside the mind of the guys that are competing for us. Because sometimes there's a little bit of a disconnect, and we gotta put ourselves in their shoes a lot of the times. And it's good because Kevin's seeing the other side of things now in the coaching aspect, and it's easy for him to relate and talk to the guys and tell them what's going on our end. So he plays an important role for our program at this point. So, yeah, you want to talk about 141?
141, still very early after a couple of tournaments. Any more clarity as who we will be seeing out there?
Plenty of clarity. I can tell you a guy with the last name Morris is going to start for us at 141 pounds right now. Yeah, it was one of those, it's not fun to do as a coach, but those, where we were at, obviously Kevin leaving and Oliver coming in, it kind of squeezed people up and down where Tarik's at. And unfortunately, they both want to be at 41. I'm not really a fan of having, two brothers at the same weight, but it's kind of the way things worked out, and we'll let those guys figure it out. And right now, Jamal will be the guy. He won the wrestle off. He has to sit 2 competitions for some things that we're working out as a staff, and he'll be back this weekend wrestling in the Wolfpack Open, and then he'll jump into our lineup when dual meets start. We'll see how it goes for this weekend, but he'll be back in our lineup at 41, and we'll have both of those guys there that are both very good and tough competitors, and we need those guys to step up. Because if one of those guys step up in this weight, which they're capable of doing, and doing some serious damage at the end of the year, it's going to make our program that much better.
Grad transfer Justin Oliver made his Wolfpack debut this past weekend. He went a perfect 3-0 up at the Journeyman Classic, outscoring his 3 foes 34-6. How fun was it to see him wrestling for the Wolfpack?
It was like he didn't miss a beat, and he's been here all along. His personality, his style of wrestling matches and meshes very well with our program. So I think with that, you're going to see instant success. He's already coming in with a very well knowledge of wrestling and accomplishments already from the program that he was at before, and we're thankful that he's in our lineup because he looks very good. And he's not even close to hitting his, stride as far as being the best he will be this year. And we're being very patient, taking our time. We want to peak at the right time. And I think in years past, talking to him, that's something, we want to balance out and make sure we're at our best when it matters. And this is all kind of just getting us there. And anytime you got guys that are experienced, I think it's easier for them to understand it and knowing that really we just got to make a run come the end of the season. And right now we're just working on some fine detailed little things that are going to make them that much better come NCAAs.
For the first time in their collegiate careers, both Bulge will be in the lineup. They've alternated redshirt seasons their first 2 years. Thomas at 65, Daniel at 74. You had an interesting perspective on both of them wrestling this year and how you see it as a major benefit.
Yeah, I think anytime you separate twins, it can be tough on them, and that was, I didn't even realize it, but talking to Dustin Kawa, who wrestled here, was their club coach. He mentioned that last year, first 2 years, those guys being in college was the first time in their whole life that they've ever been separated from competitions. And, that's a tough thing to go through. It's a transition to begin with, and then you take that away. So now when they're back to back with each other, it gets momentum. And I think they're in their comfort zone when they're around each other. And you want that when you're competing, so you can compete at your best and be relaxed. And those guys, they have a unique style of wrestling. So it's going to be one of those, they score a ton of points. They give up some points, but they're tough, scrappy, fun to watch, and always exciting. And they will go 110%. So it's going to be fun having both those guys in the lineup.
Your SID's crushing it, by the way, so far this season. 2 weeks, 2 from NC State named ACC Wrestler of the Week. Hayden, well, I do have to submit them.
We got to get a little clap button or cheer button.
Dude, if we had a budget, we could kill this podcast.
Well, that's sponsorship, Brian. We got to get on Will, our intern, raise that money.
Bill, give us some money.
Will. Oh, Bill.
Bill.
Yeah.
Anybody wants to donate, please.
Bill takes. He's not a giver anymore.
But back to Hayden. He first week of the season, he had a top 10 win in the finals. The Hokie Open was the ACC Wrestler Week. The newest ACC Wrestler Week was his classmate, Nick Reenan, for going a perfect 3-0 at 184 at the Journeyman. After opening with the major, he pinned number 20 McCollum from Oklahoma in the first period. Then in the finals, he took out number 6 Precious of Lehigh with a pair of takedowns. Now, Nick redshirted last year, so he's a bit under the radar until the freestyle season, that was, and that's when he made the Final X. But what are your expectations for him moving up to 184 now that he's ranked in the top 10 in every poll?
I think it's one of those, sky's the limit for Nick Reenan. He is as good as anybody I've been around, super talented and very dangerous wrestler, and just brings a lot of intensity. And, it's one of those where we expect him to go out and compete this year to win it all. And if he believes he can, he will be, because he's very dangerous and very tough to wrestle. And he has this year's experience, I think, really elevated his game and his confidence. And that's dangerous when you're in a situation like that. And I think, the people that he beat in the offseason have had a lot of success at the NCAA level. And that's something we tell him all the time. Hey, you've dominated guys that were in the national finals, were, multiple time All-Americans. So nothing's going to change. Styles change a little bit, but scoring takedowns is scoring takedowns, and that's something Nick Reenan's good at, and we're going to continue to get better in certain positions. But he is fun to watch. He's exciting. He's very dangerous at any given time. He can throw you and pin you, and if he needs to pick you apart with slickness, he'll do that too. And I'm just glad he's in our singlet competing for us this year finally.
And just looking at those weights we already talked about, 5 of them are members from that 2016 recruiting class that was ranked number 1 nationally. Those guys are already making an impact, but you guys are going to be a bit younger this year as well. Losing 6 senior starters from last year, how has that affected the culture in the practice room?
It's different. Every year is a different team, and you have to adapt and adjust to your team as a coaching staff. That's something we're working on right now. We see it, our first competition, some guys weren't quite prepared mentally and physically. They weren't. Mentally, they maybe weren't. Some weight management things, some guys leaving their shoes. I won't name names, but guys leaving their shoes behind. So we're dealing with those little things, and that's what makes it enjoyable and fun is, we got to stay on top of these guys, figure it out. But the fight, the talent, and the will to win is very good, and that's what's going to make a good team. But yes, these guys, we're going to be very young this year, but our talent level and our work ethic is comparable, if not as good as any team I've ever been around, and that's dangerous. So as we develop when the year goes on, I think you're going to see this team each week is going to continue to get better and better. When you're young, that's something you can look forward to, is just constantly getting better. Where last year, our improvements were minimal, but then you see young guys in our lineup that are making those strides, and now you're going to see it as a team, and that's, we'll as long as we're improving, we'll be good as a program, and that's what these guys are going to bring to the table, and it's going to be fun to watch, and then looking forward to competing with these guys because they are true competitors.
Last season, you had redshirt senior Malik McDonald up at heavyweight, but now for his final campaign, he's back down to 197, where he was a previous NCAA qualifier. What went into the decision to move him back down, and what do you see from him this season?
It's just one of those, we felt for him to be at his best, 97 was it. I don't really get too caught up in who's at this weight or that weight because I don't know if that necessarily will bring success to an individual. We thought it was best for Malik to be down at 97. He's very powerful and strong, and he can use some of that to his advantage at 97, where at heavyweight, sometimes size could be a big factor in who wins. Maybe not necessarily the best guy always wins, but if you got too much weight on somebody, it's going to be hard to beat him. But we made that decision. We're going to stick with it, and we know he's going to be extremely successful. We saw it this weekend. He got to wrestle some really good guys, and he took one loss on the weekend, and he was right in there, and I'm confident we can fix those mistakes and improve on that. And if we get a situation to compete against guys that we took a loss to, we'll take our chances a second time through. No guarantees in anything, but I think it's one of those where we can fix our mistakes that we made And it's going to take him a little while, getting readjusted to that weight, and that's fine. But it's a long season, and all we got to do is be ready to go at the end of the year, and he will be.
Renan weight cut. He tweets about it. He says it's going good.
Renan has zero issues making weight, so that's a running joke. Let's just clear the air there. He's probably running on the treadmill right now, though. I hope so, actually.
But just like 141, any clarity about where you guys stand at heavyweight?
No. Just when you think you got a guy that is going to get the job done, you see improvements from one and then a little disappointment on the other. And I just need to find consistency there. It's been an ongoing thing, and it's a running joke that Gwiz always makes. When are we going to get clarity at heavyweight? I would love to get that question answered. And all I need is one guy to step up and take it, because we'll give these guys plenty of opportunities to do so. And whoever wants it and is hungry and will show that they can be consistent will be the guy. And we'll find out a little bit more this weekend. I think getting real competition under a belt back in an open tournament will say a lot. We're going to put all three heavyweights in there. I will mix and match until we find the right guy. But you're going to see a rotation probably at heavyweight for a while until we hit February, and then we'll have to run with one of them. But you got to remember, when you're dealing with freshmen, the improvements you make each week is huge. So as we see these young guys, you're going to see them develop just like some of them did in years past. Kevin Jack's a good example of his true freshman year. In the beginning of the year, he was not a guy that was even going to qualify for the Nationals. And by the end of the year, his true freshman year, he was 5th in the country. So let's give it some time. Let's let these guys develop, and we'll see where we're at.
Talk about those freshmen. What determines how they keep a red shirt and how they burn a red shirt?
Work. If guys working and they're going to have a future in their program, they're going to redshirt. If they're not, there's no sense of redshirting a kid. They got to earn that. We talk about it all the time. If they're stale, just coming in, going through the motions, they're not going to redshirt because they're not going to get any better. But our guys that are redshirting right now are working. They're competing every weekend. If they're not, then there's no sense to redshirt. So we do what's best for them and our team. It's got to be both. It can't just be, one. You can't just do it for, hey, redshirt because it's better for yourself. It's got to be better for us and the team in the future. And it's got to, same thing in return. We don't want to pull a kid out of redshirt if it's just good for our team and not the kid. So we balance it out, and I think we got a good plan in place so we can put together a very good team this year, and our future remains very bright with the kids that we have to develop that can come out and win nationals right away. And I think we're on track to do that with several guys.
And just a reminder, you can see a majority of the Wolfpack squad in action this weekend. NC State will host the Wolfpack Duels on Saturday in Reynolds, then compete in the Wolfpack Wrestling Club Open on Sunday in Carmichael. Pat, it's great. You broke down the roster a little bit. Looking forward to a great weekend. Our fans can come out, see a ton of NC State wrestlers in action this weekend. Yeah,
it's going to be a busy weekend. There's not, one single duel where you just show up, watch some wrestling. So if you got a couple hours you want to burn, stop on by Reynolds, and then we'll be in Carmichael on Sunday. I think it's under construction, so there'll be a little challenging with how to get in there, but we'll have plenty of signs, and I know the guys will look forward to just seeing people come in, say hi, and whether it's Saturday or Sunday, but it will be a action-packed weekend for us competing, going right into the World Championships as well with Coach Hall be on the road with both those guys.
And major props, you guys killed it. I helped you out, but that new backdrop you got.
That's intern Will getting it done for us. Very aggressive. We had to teach him a little bit about branding. He had the logo's a little too small, but we fixed that, and he learned a good lesson on that.
But great backdrop. We're going to be seeing a lot of interviews on there, so look forward to a great year. Pat, hope you can jump on the podcast again kind of soon.
Yeah, let's do it. Every week now. I think we're on a weekly show here. The season started. I don't know if you checked your schedule.
I want to thank everybody for listening today. This is your Pack Mentality Pop-Ins podcast covering all things NC State wrestling. Until next time, Wolfpack wrestling fans, go Pack!
The Pack Mentality Pop-Ins podcast is produced by the Mat Talk Podcast Network. For more wrestling podcasts, go to mattalkonline.com.